Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Perspective. We'll be talking about what we saw yesterday by the PTI supporters, the politics that the PTI stands for today. We saw footages of actual fights on police vehicles. There was damage to police property, to police personnel, the kind of incitement that we are looking at. Of course, we've also had the Interior Minister, we've also had the Information Minister come out and issue statements on the fact that, of course, action will be taken. But overall, what does this mean for the politics of Pakistan, and particularly the kind of politics we are seeing the opposition, particularly one political party, drive people towards? A little later on, we'll also talk about, of course, the PSL and its winning, its overall, the way that it was held, its ramifications, its effect on the overall economic scene also, and overall what it means for the country at this time when we're grappling with so many challenges. Is it a ray of hope, and how it's overall being looked at all over? All of that today on Perspective. We have with us Murtaza Sonangi, who is a political analyst. Thank you for joining us. We also have with us Barrister Yasir Lateef. Thank you for being with us today. And Ali Rashid from the PPP. Thank you for joining us. Murtaza Sahab, let me start off with you. Overall, the style of politics we are seeing by the former Prime Minister and his political party, the kind of incitement we're looking at, the kind of, actually naming officials on Twitter, it of course stands for a threat, an out-and-out threat. How do you look at this kind of, this is another step forward in the kind of aggressive style of politics that we've seen the PTI stand for more than a year now?
Imran Khan is a populist demagogue who has tried to use the pressure tactics after his removal from office last April to achieve certain goals. He tried to use these tactics to somehow prevent his ouster. After his failure, he has used these tactics. His earlier aim was to somehow pressurize the security establishment to sack and force early elections. Then his goalposts changed, and he was trying to somehow affect the process of appointment of the next army chief. He failed. Now the legal cases are catching up very fast on him. And now he's using...
This, of course, like you're saying, the former Prime Minister, his pressure tactics from last April. But overall, in terms of the cases you're talking about, the PDM strategy as a whole, is it effective in your opinion? Of course, we are looking at cases, but we're also looking at, the kind of treatment that is being given. There is criticism to the former Prime Minister. How do you look at that overall? And then I want to come to Yasir also on his assessment of it as a lawyer.
I was about to conclude what his tamasha was all about yesterday. Right now, he's trying somehow to get an NRO from those cases and make sure that he's not convicted and tried. So he's trying to delay that process. When it comes to PDM's strategy, I think there are quite a few problematic areas.
Okay.
Since it's a rainbow coalition, so their point of views are not necessarily aligned, and somehow and sometimes they are contradictory and conflicting. So, the response of a single political party controlled by one man and 13 or 12 parties with a relative sense of democracy coming together to give a solid response is probably an unrealistic expectation.
Okay, on that note, please stay with us. Let me come back to you. Yasir, you heard what Murtaza Salangi Saab is saying, but as a lawyer, the way that you're looking at, our justice system and the way that we are watching the treatment given to the former Prime Minister, is it in a lot of ways, new? Is it unprecedented? How do you look at it?
It's definitely unprecedented. I mean, if you think about it, it's drive-through justice, isn't it? Someone just drives in, and then they're sort of just put on, and they sign their name, and that's it. That's drive-through justice, and then they get takeaway bails as well. So I think it is unprecedented for the judiciary. I'm sorry to say, I'm a lawyer, but I'm sorry to say, judiciary's been bending over backwards to entertain and accommodate Mr. Khan. So it is definitely very unprecedented.
But the judicial process in any case is continuing, and one of the criticisms, I think I'll go to Ali and I'll come back to you. Ji, Ali, can you hear me? Ji, Ali, overall, one of the criticisms that has come out by the PTI is that the number of cases against the former Prime Minister is more than 70. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but the number given out itself, isn't that making it somewhat non-serious, the whole process?
You see, all the cases against the XPM are there, but none of them are there without any good reason. There may be several cases, but look at the way he's handling those cases. He's not taking any of them seriously. You ask me if these cases are serious, I'm asking you, is his attitude toward these cases are serious? Point is, these cases, for whatever reason, good or bad, have been registered. Now, the legal course should, it should come in action, and now whatever the legal process is should happen. Now the courts are calling him to appear in front of the court, and he's not coming, and people in the police have to actually come and produce him in front of the court, and he can't do that. What I don't understand is, like a month back, your party announces a jail bharo tehreek, where you're wanting everybody to be arrested. And as soon as your turn comes for an arrest, you're hiding under the bed, you're not coming out of your house, you're using militant elements who are, bombing, the police cars, and it's like a very sad situation. And what kind of image internationally are you giving out of Pakistan, and what are you trying to achieve? For how long can you escape, from this? I mean, he should come and he should realize that sooner or later, he will have to face it. And then when asked by international media, why are you avoiding arrest? He's like, I had my bag ready and I was about to go give my arrest, but then my workers told me not to. Who's the leader? Are you the leader, or are your workers the leader? And then contrary to that, an audio leak from Begum Yasmin, or whatever her name is, clearly stated that he's the one who's not convinced, and she was talking to Asad Umar, telling him to please, or talking to Mr. Arif Alvi, telling them to convince Mr. Imran Khan to give arrest, because things are getting really bad. Someone or the others.
Ali, on that note, let me come back to you. Yasir, isn't it true, before I go to Murtaza Sahab, isn't it true that the number of cases themselves, are making it, allowing, they're using it as a defense as far as the PTI is concerned?
Well, it certainly looks like it. The narrative is working. I mean, that's an extraordinarily high number of cases. It's 70 plus, some say it's about to hit century. That, I think, is a problem, but like Mr. Rashid said, the legal course has to, the legal route has to take its course, and once it does, these things would be, if it is political victimization, there is a way to go about it. It's certainly not sitting at home and hiding and bringing out militant, sort of this militant resistance, as it were. I mean, that's what it is, no matter how you put it.
But on the one hand, you are seeing, we saw what happened in Zaman Park, we saw what happened yesterday by, protesters from the PTI when they started, they've damaged property, they've tried to, there have been scuffles, there have been injuries, and, of course, the government has to take action there. So, of course, that will mean more cases as far as the former Prime Minister is concerned. His attitude since the vote of no confidence happened is to hell with whatever anybody says. He's going to move forward. He's inciting people. He's trying to get them to this kind of violence we are seeing. So that invariably means more cases, because that's how it's going to work. Let me go to Murtaza Sahab. Murtaza Sahab, why is it true? Do you agree that it's in a sense unprecedented? Are the courts also, in your opinion, perhaps there is an element of public pressure, there is an element of some kind of as far as the courts are concerned, perhaps a difference in treatment?
That difference in treatment is very obvious. If you remember, my friend Hamdani will tell you, pretty recently, Maryam Nawaz had appeared in a court where she loudly said, "Assalamu alaikum." And she was snubbed by the judge that you have no manners, how to come to court. Why don't I cancel your bail on that? Now compare that with the attitude Mr. Khan has been displaying. Just fast forward to this case that he appeared yesterday. This was his 9th appearance, 9th. And this was the 3rd non-bailable arrest warrant. Mr. Hamdani will tell you what that means. And each time, both in Lahore High Court, where he got his attendants sitting in his car, and the same was repeated yesterday. Imran Khan is using his mobs and his troll brigades to pressurize courts. His nephew posted the picture of the judge that had to act yesterday and preside the hearing. And he threatened with his picture. And now you see the result.
As they're doing with the police officials now.
Well, let me just conclude this with this century mark that he says that I'm about to reach, century mark of cases. Investigative journalist Fakhar Durrani did a detailed expose on the number of cases. Last time when he said there were 78 cases, he counted and said there were only 40 cases. The remaining cases were the ones that he himself and his party had filed. So he combined all of those. But whatever the number of the cases may be, the main thing is how seriously is he handling those cases. Some of the cases are very serious.
Okay. Fair enough, you're right, but overall, Murtaza Sahab, what about the level playing field that, that there should be? In this kind of a scenario where clearly, you are agreeing there is an overall opinion that there is a difference of treatment, so to speak, do you expect there to be a level playing field? And if there is not a level playing field, what kind of a future in politics are we looking at?
Ask our friend Rashid, who is on the show. His party filed a case for the review of their founder party leader, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto. We are still waiting for that. We are still waiting for the 25th May contempt of the court by Imran Khan. We are waiting for too many cases. So I don't think that a level playing field is created in Pakistan, or if it exists, because it clearly shows that our judiciary is under heavy pressure of the lynch mobs of Imran Khan and his troll brigades.
But Murtaza Sahab, anybody, these political parties, you yourself have mentioned Maryam Nawaz, and there are, as far as PMLN is concerned, I will go to Ali on this also, but it's not difficult for any political party of that kind of magnitude to amass thousands of people if they want to. and if they choose to do so. Of course, you know, as far as the PMLN is concerned, the PPP is concerned, they resisted. As far as Mariam Nawaz's hearings are concerned, there were barricades placed. She was told to walk, her people were told to stay back, and you know, this is not very long ago. Why is that not being enforced by the government? The government has to enforce this, isn't that true?
Well, the government is in a catch-22 situation.
Okay.
They don't want to act like Imran Khan when one-page narrative ruled this country. Since they have a limited mandate and the elections are around the corner, so they are trying to be watchful. Plus, there have been incidents in the past like Model Town, Lal Masjid. So they are a little bit careful that there shouldn't be bloodshed, and they don't want to be blamed for it in an election year. And
Right.
their restraint is being exploited by Mr. Khan, who is known for his violent behavior, starting from 2014 dharnas and after his ouster, May 25, and you know, you saw what happened in Lahore and
Right,
what
fair
happened in
fair
Islamabad.
enough. I think I'll go to Ali on this. Ali, what Murtaza Saab is saying is right. He's saying that it's been exploited, it's being misused by the former Prime Minister. And if we look back, you know, as far as the Dharna is concerned, this is really a more aggressive extension of, you know, that demand for 35 elections, and then it's increased, and of course then it's gotten eventually to where stepping away, you know, getting out of the NA and then dissolution, all of those things. But the point is, why, you know, of course, the elections, all of those factors that Murtaza Saab mentioned, I hope you were listening, those are there, but there needs to be at this time perhaps a stricter enforcement of, you know, those rules, and how will the government deal with this catch-22 situation?
You see, that's there's a lot of things which I myself and a lot of people like myself don't understand about Mr. Khan. You know, at one point he'll say he wants to talk to the establishment, and the next instance, in the same speech, he'll contradict himself and start bad-mouthing the establishment. He'll say he wants to sit with other political stakeholders and he's willing to talk. Then he starts calling them thieves, robbers, you know, dakus and this and that. And he's like, I mean, the man is confused. You know, nobody can make sense of what he wants. Like
But Ali,
just like I
fact
mentioned earlier.
the facts are at this time, let me interject for a second. Overall,
I'll
the
give you an
facts at this
example.
time are that there are, you know, there are people, there is a mob that's actually resisting the writ of the state. So there is, you know, either the government can, you know, enforce that writ of state, or they can choose to step back. Those seem to be the only two options. Isn't that true?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I totally agree with you. And if we don't go much into the distance past, you'll look at a political party like MQM. I think their political leader at that time, Mr. Altaf Hussain, has said much less about political institutions and has done a lot less. There was a raid at the 9-0, weapons were recovered, and the entire party was sealed. You know, Altaf Hussain was banned from, like, you know, from the news. Here, I don't understand why Mr. Khan is getting this special treatment where for one day he gets banned from Pemira, the next day the courts give him relief and he gets unbanned. So I think we need to also understand that if you keep encouraging this kind of behavior or not punishing this kind of behavior, it will continue. And it will get, as time goes by, it will get much worse, because then when a person starts thinking they're above the law, then you can't do anything about it, right? Then they'll go to any extent. And this is exactly the kind of impression that we're giving Mr. Khan. Why would somebody not show up to a court hearing when he's been summoned by the court? Because he thinks, I'm untouchable, I'm above the law, and I'm so all and mighty, I'm so popular. So we have to change this perspective. I think the government needs to come down very hard.
Yeah, Yasir, the legal process, whether there are 72 cases or 40 cases or 35 cases, the point is that, you know, any prime minister or no prime minister, former prime minister, he has to go and face them. And there is this violence, there is this procession that is being allowed to enter courtroom. We've seen the visuals. There's no we've all seen what happens every time he chooses to mobilize and go to court. On the other hand, there is offer, he's talking about talking to people. Do you think there's any seriousness there? Is it a pressure, is it both, carrot and stick? What do you think is behind this?
I don't think Imran Khan's been serious about anything. But then again, I mean, we were talking about him calling robbers, etc., etc. One of the people he famously called Punjab ka sabse bada daku now is the president of the PTI. So you never know. There's no final word in politics and that sort of thing. Now, as far as the legal process is concerned, the way the mobs have resisted and the way that it's basically come down to rabble rousing. And that's what he's doing. He's bringing out mobs, and mobs are resisting, not just resisting arrest, which is what we saw the whole of last week. But now we've got a situation where mobs are attacking the police in the federal capital. Mostly unprovoked.
And there are people from the PTI, I'm going to take Murtaza Solanki Saab on this also, there are people within the PTI who are naming police officers, who are putting up pictures of police officers, and they're saying that justice will be done. So there is clear threatening also.
Absolutely. The judge's picture was up as well.
So it's not decreasing. Murtaza Saab, do you expect, do you think there's any seriousness? Do you expect there to be any headway, with this talk situation, that he's agreeing to talk, or the party is agreeing to talk? Is it just one of those things he says and then he backtracks, the U-turns he's famous for? What is behind it, in your opinion?
Well, if there is any sincere and dedicated fascist political party in this country, that's PTI, who has specialized this art of blackmailing, pressure tactics, trolling campaigns, and mob violence. This is what they have been doing. So, he would say anything. His party leaders would say that we are ready to negotiate. But in the last minute, this party is a personal fief of Mr. Khan. He is the one who decides. There are just too many, dozens of examples where many political leaders of his party.
At the same time, Mr. Khan is also saying again and again that there is threat to his life. He is, he said that yesterday again.
He every day, today he said he does not trust the state security forces of Pakistan. So ask Mr. Hamdani if we should call the United Nations or any other foreign power to protect him, because he has clearly said that he does not trust the security apparatus of Pakistan, because he accuses them of conspiring to kill him. So who should we call for his protection?
But
either
he already has his mob to protect him, I think. I think there is a mob to protect him. I mean, he has women and children.
Then he's creating a dangerous template. Any political leader in this country who feels threatened should organize his own militia to protect him, because everybody would say that we don't trust the security forces of Pakistan. Where do you go from there?
In terms of the challenges you yourself have mentioned, as far as the government is concerned, as far as the PDM is concerned, of course, the number one challenge is the economic one. And of course, with the IMF deal still pending, that is something the government itself is grappling with. The elections also. So there are numerous challenges the government themselves are dealing with at this time. Do you think there's any other, what do you think is a solution to this kind of backlash, fascism, whatever we may call it, that's coming from the opposition in the background of this overall scenario?
Pakistan is facing a triple crisis. Rising insurgency, economic meltdown of biblical proportions, and extreme political polarization. These three challenges, or three crises, have almost an existential threat for Pakistan, and Mr. Khan is trying to push Pakistan to a situation which would be worse than Sri Lanka and countries like that. He mentioned even Iran and Sri Lanka. So I don't think with his control over this party, there would be any political solution. Now, we can only hope and pray that the legal course takes its time. But, besides Mr. Khan, most of the party leaders are run of the mill politicians who would be willing to sit down and negotiate and find an amicable political solution for the next elections.
Ali Rashid, overall, whereas, according to Musa Saab, he's saying there's no political solution in the presence of the former Prime Minister and his style of politics. Do you expect any headway in this talk between him and his party? Because what Musa Saab is saying, he's, as far as his own party is concerned, of course, it's an open secret that there was an opinion, a difference of opinion on stepping out of the National Assemblies. But of course, Mr. Khan chose to direct and order his party people to leave. That seems to be the overall style of his politics, even though he calls it parliamentary, democratic, whatever one may say. But in that kind of a scenario, it seems difficult that there will be a dialogue, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you. But I do also understand at the same time that a lot of senior leaders who are part of the party with Mr. Imran Khan are not too happy with the way he's conducting things, because obviously I don't think anybody wants, to be dealing with this kind of stress where, you're going head on against the state, where you're making very reckless statements about the Chief of Army Staff, about the establishment, where you're putting blame without any evidence, So I think they're wanting to come to the table to talk. And I think Mr. Shehbaz Sharif has also said, I think it's about time. But I don't understand, look at the current state of affairs. We are in the middle of the IMF deal coming through. There is PSL going on. And with Mr. Imran Khan creating all these issues, just one wonders, the hunger of power has blinded him to not think about Pakistan, and he's just thinking about himself. But you're right. I hope, sanity prevails. And but so far, it just looks very
But
difficult.
Ali, what about this popular, what he believes, his party and its popularity, and the fact that they have to do with himself, as far as the former Prime Minister is concerned. He believes that it is him alone that stands for any. What is your overall assessment of this popularity, what the graph, of course, with the elections looming, right around the corner?
Okay, I'll be very honest and I'll be fair. I think he is, people are out for him, people are supporting him. He is, doing a good job. The narrative he's selling, which may not be true, but people are
But
buying
Ali,
it.
why are you not doing a better job? Why is your party, why is the PDM not doing a better job in that case?
Okay, because we are busy. So look, we are busy. We are above this high school style of siyasat, and we want to do something for the country. I think we have bigger challenges right now, like the IMF, avoiding default, trying to the poor man on the street, the common man, try to give him relief, deal with inflation, deal with international issues which are going on. So we have a lot going on anyways, right? On the Indian front, with the Indian trying to show us their eyes and everything. So I think overall we're trying to deal with bigger issues, and I think where Mr. Khan has nothing else to resort to these petty, shallow tactics. So what can we do? We can resort to his level of pettiness and start doing a tit for tat kind of situation, But I think that won't benefit the
Right.
countries. So we are avoiding that.
Okay, Murtaza Sahab, I'll come back to you, Yasir. Murtaza Sahab, do you agree? Do you think that the popularity of the former Prime Minister, do you agree with what Ali Rashid Sahab is saying as far as the PTI itself as a party that is popular to the level that Mr. Khan believes?
Look, Mr. Khan might be popular as an individual, but we don't have uh, a political system of like presidential rule where one person will decide after getting elected. We have a parliamentary democracy, and when it comes to popularity, it's not something that's static. It changes. Imagine the popularity of Mr. Khan on 9th of April before he was ousted. It changes. So let's wait for the election date when general elections are held, and let's see the candidates of all parties, how do they fare in the elections. But
You
if
don't
you
think
want to
Punjab will determine what happens in the center, or do you think that's an older style of politics that's no longer relevant today?
Punjab is not a monolith. Punjab also includes South Punjab that may act differently. And sometimes, Karachi is the city that Mr. Khan bagged most of the National Assembly seats in as a single party. But look what happened in the local government elections. They are not the first, they are not the second, they are the third party in Karachi. And he talks a lot about those National Assembly seats that he contested and won. Well, just look at Karachi, where he won. The total turnout was only 14%. Peshawar, that he has ruled for a decade, the total turnout was only 20%. So it's just too early to play with this popularity narrative. Uh, the real poll is when the elections are held, and not Mr. Khan, but his party candidates contest and see what the results are. But whatever the people of Pakistan decide, we must respect that mandate.
Fair enough, fair enough. Thank you, Murtaza Sahab. I'm going to go to Yasir. Yasir, the political process aside, that is one aspect of it. The legal side of things and the precedents every day is laying for the future. Do you think there needs to be restraint as far as the overall legal process is concerned? Do you think there needs to be a rethink with due respect to what's happening as far as the judicial process? Because of course, there is criticism also, the way the decisions are, the treatment overall. Of course, the optics also, in this case, you agree, matter, because that he is, of course, a former Prime Minister, and the optics of giving him a better treatment than what is the norm will look back, if it will look bad as a whole and will lay a precedence.
Several precedents have been made, and I think this question start with the fact that he's not appearing for the indictment. Now it's God knows how many hearings have gone by, and there's still the charge hasn't been framed. So stuff like this is obviously going to have its own repercussions for the future of the justice system, unless of course you're going to say that Mr. Imran Khan was an exception. And in that case, what do you say? There's nothing, that's the end of the argument. But the fact is that there are certain precedents. Now the big thing that they're fighting for right now, the PTI legal team as it were, is this idea that he could appear online and through video, video conferencing, stuff like that. That I think is going to be that requires major legislative change for that to happen, and unless that comes through, so maybe as a matter of fact, maybe that might actually turn out to be a positive thing. But in criminal cases, in the presence of the accused is very necessary. So all of these things are there. I would want to go back to sort of this question of how popular he is. I mean, moving away from the legal process, I think he is immensely popular, and unfortunately the narrative has sold really well. He continues to be this.
But the factor, the facts that Murtaza Saab mentioned also will play a role overall, and it's also, not his own popularity only. It's also the candidates, it's also his party, it's also how he fares on the election date. And to be fair, we saw what happened in Karachi also.
Yes,
on that note, unfortunately,
I would just caution against sort of taking it lightly. I would want the government to put out its narrative more sort of vehemently.
I think yes. I think as I said to Ali Rashid Saab also, I think the government, the PDM as a whole needs to put out their narrative more vociferously. Definitely more effort needs to be made to combat the kind of propaganda that comes from the other side. Unfortunately, that's all the time that we have. Thank you so much for being with us. Murtaza Salangi Saab, Barrister Yasir Lateef, Ali Rashid Saab, thank you for joining us. We want to move on and talk about the PSL and overall the effects of the PSL on our cricket scene. We've seen it conclude in the manner that it has, what it means overall for the future of cricket also. We have with us Hijab Zahid.
That this season 8 has gone has been a miracle sort of, considering that we had a lot of challenges in the country at the time that PSL was going on. But you have to give credit to the Pakistan Cricket Board for the way that they have handled everything. Despite of some conflicts and everything went smoothly, and they were able to accommodate all the stakeholders and everything. And obviously, it has a very, very huge role to play in the future of Pakistan cricket as well. We've seen some exciting new talent come in, and being rewarded as well for their efforts. And we've had such wonderful games, such wonderful experience for people who are watching at home and also in the stadium. So overall, I think it was a big success, and you have to give credit to all the stakeholders and all the people that have been involved in PSL, whether that's their production team or their digital team, or people on the ground, the groundsmen, the people at the venues, making sure that everything is okay, and obviously the security and logistics and everything went really well. So I think it was a very nice tournament, and ended at a very nice point as well.
What about the overall IPL digital rating also? It says it's 130 million, and more than, of course it's a great success for Pakistan. Like you said, it's also record breaking, as the PCB chairman also said. But it means new challenges, it means new roads, it means new initiatives for the Pakistani cricket scene overall.
Oh, absolutely. There's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes that people might not realize. We're sitting at home because they're more focused on the cricket part of it. But obviously, the crux of the whole league is the cricket and the new talent coming in. But there are so many other things that are going on behind the scenes. Like you mentioned, the digital presence of Pakistan Super League. It's been watched all over the world, and the impression that it has had on this season, especially has had all over the world. It's something very, very exciting for us, because obviously, like you mentioned, we'll have new avenues, we'll have new initiatives come along. We already saw some groundbreaking initiatives like Hamare Heroes that goes on, and it's being praised all over the world because it's one of its kind. So in the future, obviously, you will have a few more initiatives come in, hopefully, and you'll have new challenges come in as well, because there are so many leagues going on around the world. It's not easy to capture the attention of the audience that sits all over the world, and to capture their attention, and obviously to have them talk about or interact with your league, not just in Pakistan but globally as well, is an achievement worth talking about and worth appreciating. So every single person who's been part of their digital team, their broadcasting team, even from the franchises, the digital content that comes through the franchises has so good, so engaging, that it literally set a new bar for this kind of content worldwide.
What about the viewership? In terms of the viewership also, we've had 76% of Pakistani population have access to television. This is what the chairman PCB said, and 73% viewed the country's domestic T20 league. Of course, it also shows a trend. It shows our population's interest overall. Do you think they're going to be, as far as digitally speaking, it's also a digital rating is also, it's a huge step forward in that direction also. But in terms of challenges, of course, there are challenges as far as security is concerned and other issues within Pakistan. To be able to combat those issues and still happen, I'm sure you would agree, is groundbreaking for Pakistan.
Oh, absolutely. And you had the PSL in maybe one or two venues in the last couple of years because of COVID. But this time you had it spread to 4 different venues. So when that happens and you have like games happening alternatively in different cities, it's like you have to divide your whole team into 2 parts. You know, you have to cover every single venue, you have to cover every single game, you have to make sure that every person on the ground is a specialist and knows what he or she is doing. So that's really something, to carry that personnel with you throughout, the month and throughout these 5 weeks to keep the quality of the content and the quality of the broadcasting, especially that's happening. And like you mentioned, that the viewership has already been groundbreaking, but obviously it's not just the TV that's being used for it. People are traveling most of the time, or they're at work and they're using different screens to watch PSL. Everybody I know personally, kept up with PSL, wouldn't miss a game. That's how exciting the cricket was and everything. So yeah, you're absolutely right about that. This has been
Right. Thank
this
you
season
so much,
has
Hijab. Thank you for your overall assessment of the PSL and the way that it was conducted, the way that it's being viewed all over, the way that, it has, of course, it's groundbreaking in a lot of aspects. It also shows that the interest of the Pakistan, overall, our people, and also shows our resolve in the kind of scenario that we are seeing and in the kind of challenges that Pakistan is facing to conclude it so successively. Thank you so much for joining us today on Perspective.